Awesome. good morning, or whatever time of day it is that you are seeing this. My name is Kristine Dunn, and I am part of the FYR Partners with eXp Realty. We love to bring you information that we get lit up about, and hopefully it encourages you to be better in your business or someone that you know that you can share this information with that will help them. So this week, we're actually going to be talking about conversations, right? Because if you cannot have a conversation with someone, there is no conversion in real estate. And really, in any kind of sales, in any kind of relationship, there has to be some sort of a back and forth. There has to be an actual rapport built, and that happens through conversation, right? And so I really just wanted to kind of put this out there. And this is kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if you've heard about Bashar, but Bashar is well, you can Google it if you want to know more about Bashar. But something that he says is to always follow what inspires you, what lights you up, and take inspired action. Because in doing so, it leads to other opportunities. And just to follow that action until it no longer inspires you. So for me, real estate has been, gosh, since 2011, and I have been enjoying it. And it's a really fun thing that is forever changing, and we have to always be learning something new. And that kind of fits really well with my fitness world and love for that too, because it is always changing. The body is always changing, the mind is always changing, the way we think about things is always changing. And so for me, those two things marry really well. And I really appreciate that because they kind of compound on each other too. And it gives me different things to have conversations with people about. Because while you may be connecting during a real estate transaction, how are you going to keep in touch with those clients afterwards or during or as part of that? So I'm going to go ahead and share a screen and just kind of talk a little bit about what are these conversations? And particularly today, I want to share conversations for internet leads. Okay. And why is this important? It's important to me because this is how I actually built my business. Okay. I built my business using this particular database, which, this is really what they teach. So if you want to know more about the database, let me know. If you want to know more about this training, let me know. This is something that we teach often, and it is for free for people who use this. And honestly, it's not something that I created, if I'm being honest. It's not. And so this is thousands and thousands of people who have gone through this training and learned these techniques and have had success, including myself. So not only did I learn these things, I then was asked to teach these things. And so it has been a really amazing experience because it has grown my business, but also it has grown my network because your net worth is a reflection of your net work. And if you cannot have good, meaningful conversations, then you are not going to have amazing connections with people, right? You've got to have the conversation to create the connection, which leads to conversion. So, they always say in this training, particularly, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Some of you guys really need to pick up the phone, but it gets really heavy the longer you wait to pick it up, whether you're calling clients, whether you're calling other realtors that you're trying to bring onto your team or to your company, or maybe you're trying to recruit them, whatever it is, if you know that you need to make a call and you're not doing it, you are actually doing yourself a disservice. So, if that phone is feeling really heavy, hopefully by the end of this, it will feel a little bit lighter. I know even for myself, who makes calls very often, it still can feel kind of heavy sometimes. I'm sure Lars can even say the same. You just don't want to pick it up. But in those moments, if you can change a few things and get right in your head, then when you do make those phone calls and make those connections and create those conversations, then it really does make a big difference in your business, in your life, and in the lives of those that you connect with. So if you can get comfortable being uncomfortable and remember that it is only uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar or you're not doing it enough, then you can show up a little bit better for yourself in different ways, right? So, five things that really you want to consider before making a call. What is the goal of the call, right? Why are you making the call? And are you keeping some sort of a sales journal, right? Where are you keeping track of your notes? Where are you tracking things? Because what's tracked can be measured and what's measured can be managed. So, in the beginning, if you're getting a lot of people hanging up on you, if you're not able to schedule an appointment, if you are struggling with objections, if you're keeping a journal, a sales journal of some kind, then you will know what you need to focus on. So, if you're getting a lot of people hanging up, then you know you need to focus on your opening line. What are you saying? What is the first words out of your mouth, right? If you are struggling to set an appointment, what are the words that you're using to set the appointment? How are you phrasing things, right? And so, again, what's tracked can be measured, and you really need some sort of a sales journal or somewhere that you're going to be keeping track of all these things. If you think about athletes and professional athletes and things, they're doing all the things in the dark when no one else is looking, right? They're studying the footage from the game that weekend on Monday, right? They're looking, what could I have done better? How could I have tweaked this play? Are you doing those things? And if you're not, why not? And if you are, great. Help someone around you do the same, right? Because if we help enough people get what they want, then we will, of course, get what we want as well. Now, I mentioned that sometimes this phone gets really heavy. So it's really important to figure out what state of mind or energy are you bringing into your conversations, right? If you are dreading making a call, it's probably going to be dreadful unless you do something different to change it, right? So if it's listening to music, if it's dancing it out, if it's standing up, right? I'm sitting down right now, but typically when I'm presenting, I'm standing up because it gives you more space in your diaphragm to really speak and bring that energy up and out and through. And especially if you're doing something online or through the phone because they can't see you, right? So your energy is going to be more important for the phone than it is going to be in person and anywhere else, because energy is very contagious. It can only be transferred. It cannot be destroyed. It cannot be created. So it's really important to think about what are you coming into the conversation with? Are you bringing in something that happened horrible over the weekend or with your family or whatever? You've got to be able to put those things aside and then drum up some really exciting energy to be able to create that synergy and have a really great conversation. And then also, athletes, and I'm speaking about athletes because I'm an athlete, so it's easy for me to relate to. And hopefully, some of you at some point have been a competitor in something, right? Whether it was debate or the band or whatever it is, you're still some sort of competitive person. And if you're in real estate, you're probably competitive anyway, right? And so think about what your confidence actually comes from. And it doesn't come from the win itself, right? Whether you won the debate or the game or the band thing, whatever it is, the confidence doesn't come from the win. The confidence comes from the little things that we do every day that bring big change over time. So when I relate this to myself, I'm a competitive bodybuilder now. And the win on stage is just the icing on the cake. I don't have the confidence from the win. I get the win from my confidence. And the confidence comes from drinking water every morning, eating properly, getting my exercise in, making the calls for real estate, doing all the little things every day. That's what brings confidence. So if you don't have a list of 3 to 5 things that you do every single day without fail, I would encourage you to do that. Because those 3 to 5 things on the days when you don't do anything else, if you at least do those, your confidence will continue to increase so that when you want to do the bigger thing, the more difficult thing, the more challenging thing, you will be ready because you've already proved to yourself that you can do something for an extended period of time. That is what confidence comes from. So I just want to kind of reiterate that because sometimes we think, well, the confidence comes from this or that. No, it comes from doing the little things every day. It comes from making a promise to yourself and then keeping it. Okay, it's the little things. And these little things really do add up to be big things. So just think about that. And if you didn't already, maybe write it down. What are 3 to 5 things that you already do every day that no matter what, even on your worst day, you do it, that you can check off your list, right? If you're like me and you like to check things off a list, then have the same list and the same 3 to 5 things on that list every day. And doing those will build your confidence over time. And having that confidence is what's really going to get you those big wins later. So, what does an opening line look like for internet leads? Now, before I go into this, I want you to think about for a second, what is an internet lead? In my terms, an internet lead is just a person who is expressing interest via the internet in either purchasing or selling a home. That's it. But I think the biggest key word I want you to think about right now is that it is a person. It is a human being. It is not AI. It is not a being from something else. This is a human being, okay, that has expressed interest in purchasing or selling real estate. That's it. Okay. So there's some things that we don't want to do. All right. You really don't want to do this in your opening line. And I'm going to tell you these things because when I was a kid, before my parents took us to do something fun or we went to someone's house, my parents always said, all right, before we go in, here's all the things we're not going to do. We're not going to jump on the furniture. We're not going to yell. We're not going to hit, scream, all those things. Right. So I'm going to give you all the things that we don't want to do in our opening line. Okay. And again, this is not my content. This is from our database of what we teach every other week on a specific platform that I'm happy to share with you. They generate leads and it is amazing. And I've been using it for like almost 10 years. But seven things you really don't want to do is you don't want to ask them how are they doing or respond with any phrase of that sort. It automatically, and I do this to people because I know this is what you're not supposed to do. When a salesperson calls me and they say, oh, hey, how are you doing? And it's like, well, it's the worst day of my life. How do you come back from that, right? Now, we're salespeople, so you probably already do that or you're already thinking that, but we don't want to set them up to give them an out, right? So we're just kind of saying, all right, we're going to sidestep past this and just not even make this an objection for ourselves, right? So don't in your opening line ask, how are you doing, or respond with anything of that phrase for any reason. The second thing you're going to do is you're not going to introduce yourself with your company's brokerage name, is what this is supposed to say. Now, I'm not telling you to not share your brokerage name because it's a secret. It's just in the opening line, it is not important. What if they had a bad experience with someone at your company? What if they've never heard of your company and they were hoping that you were with some company that they see advertised in the newspaper all the time because they still read the newspaper? There's no reason to include your company's brokerage name in the opening line. It's not a secret. We're all proud of who we work with and where we hang our brokerage, and that's okay. But don't share it in the very initial opening line. Okay. The third thing we're not going to do is we're not going to say their name. I know this is a weird thing, and in every sales training, they always say people like to hear their name. Yes, they do, but they want to hear it from people that they know, like, and trust. They don't want to hear it from a voice that they don't know. And what if just hear me out here for a minute. If you say their name and you say it wrong, if it was their spouse that registered online, it automatically gives them an out. It automatically gives them a way to say, oh, that wasn't me. That's not my name. That's not who I am. And it gives them a way to say, nope, that wasn't me. And now, how are you going to come back from that? Again, I'm just trying to give you ways to keep moving forward without getting stuck or pulled behind. The next thing we're not going to do is we're not going to say that I saw you registered or signed up on my site. It is very big brother-ish, and we don't want to do that, right? Now, we are going to say something that acknowledges that they were searching online, and that's okay. They're searching on tons of different sites. So there's no reason to say that you saw that they registered on your site because they don't even know your site. They don't know what site they signed up on because they signed up on 10 different ones, right? To see 10 different properties. So you're not going to say that you saw that they registered or signed up on your site is they're immediately going to say, no, I didn't. It wasn't me. And again, how are we going to come back from that? Right? Next, you're not going to say, is there anything I can help you with? Guys, 86% of buyers do not think that their realtor understands their problem. Okay. So they do not think that you can help them. And more importantly, you haven't added any value yet. So without value, without having connected with someone, without any rapport, you're speaking to someone who has briefly expressed interest in real estate, but they don't know anything about you. So you can't help them yet. So we're not going to include that in our opening line. The next one is do not come in with an assumption of the lead. Now, when I started first selling real estate, when I first started selling real estate, happy Monday, I just cherry picked. I went through my leads and my database and I picked the ones that were the highest value. And, I just really kind of picked and choose who I was calling. But here's the deal. Don't come in with an assumptional lead because you never know who is on the other end of that. And sometimes people are just in an area or their friend mentions an area and they say, "Hey, let me just see what I can get for 200,000." Now, if I don't call that $200,000 lead, because we don't really have anything for sale for 200,000 or not very much in Naples anyway, then I am missing out because what if they missed a zero in their search? What if they are an investor who has $2 million to spend, but they just want to see what could I get for 200? And then after speaking with you and sharing what you know about the area and what they're looking for, they're willing to pay five, seven, 800, $2 million for a property, right? So if you go in assuming that their budget is 200, guys, how many times have you, and drop it in the chat, let me know, I'm just curious, how many times have you called a lead or were working with someone who said that their budget was X and then they ended up spending significantly more above that, right? It happens all the time. You cannot assume that someone is only looking within a certain budget. Now, sometimes they spend less. Great. If it's an investor, then now they're going to use you even more. The other thing is what if their budget really is 200,000? And you can't find them what they need in your specific area, but maybe in your surrounding area you can find it. Or you offered them so much value in the conversation that they want to share all of their friends with you. And now you made one call and got three additional sales from it because you were adding value to them in some way, shape, or form. You just can't assume anything about these leads. You just always want to go into it with an open mind. The other thing and the final thing in this section is not to get in a fight on the phone. I know that there are so many of us that just really want to make a sale, but the buyers and whoever's on the end of the phone, if you are coming from a place of service, they will know it. If you are coming from a place of, I need this sale, they will also know it. Do not speak with commission breath. It will be heard very loud and clear. And if you're trying to get in a fight on the phone with somebody to tell them that, oh, and I always mess up this analogy, so I should really just stop using it. If you know the right words, put it in the chat here. But people always like to say date the rate, marry the house or something, or you can just buy the house and you can, refinance later. All of those things are great. But if somebody has a very specific belief about something, you are not going to change their belief in an initial conversation. So, having said that, you don't need to argue with them about the interest rates being too high or too low or whatever's going on with the economy or everything's about to die. These are not things to argue about. This is an objection that we can very easily say, hey, you know what? I hear you. I know. I don't know what's going to happen with the interest rates either. But what if we just take the interest rates and just set them aside for a minute? What got you interested in this area to begin with? I think that's probably the easiest way to handle any of those types of objections than rather than trying to convince them otherwise, right? Because again, this is an initial conversation. This is your initial, statement out of your mouth to start the conversation with somebody. If you are trying to get in a fight and convince them otherwise of whatever they believe, you are going to lose. We want to set you up to win, right? So what does an opening line look like? A successful opening line look like for an internet lead? Here's what we use, and it works amazing. Hey, this is Kristine with the home search site. I noticed you were looking at some homes in Naples. Just curious, are you looking to make a move in the next few months or are you just browsing? Now, I'm reading it to you, so it sounds like I'm reading it to you, right? But the thing about scripts is, and I'm just going to throw this out there that I used to hate scripts. I was like, they don't work. They just sound like a script. It's horrible. But the reality is we are setting them up to say that they're just browsing because 98% of people are going to say they're just browsing anyway. Then I can easily say, perfect, that's exactly what the site is for. So what's prompted you to browse? Now they're like, oh my gosh, that was such a great question. I'm going to have a conversation with this person. But so many of us, including myself, get stuck with the just browsing and say, okay, well, how can I adjust your search to so that you're only getting the properties that you want to see? That is not creating a conversation that leads to conversion. Okay, so we have to be able to get past some of these really initial roadblocks, and just browsing is one of those. So what this typically sounds like when I'm making a call is I pick up the phone. And again, this is just the wheel. Okay. You guys think of this as a bicycle. You can dress up your bicycle however you want, but the bike itself is a bike. So if you want to put streamers on it, if you want to put, those little cards on your spokes or something to make, a bell on your bike, whatever it is, dress up the bike however you want. But this is the bike that we're going to ride. We don't need to change anything about it, but we can dress it up a little. So mine sounds kind of like this. Hey there, this is Kristine with your home search site. I noticed you were looking at some homes over in the Naples area, and I'm just curious. Are you looking to make a move in the next few months, or are you just browsing? It sounds conversational because it is. I didn't say their name. I said my name. I didn't say the name of the home search site because it's irrelevant. I just said the home search site. They're searching on a ton of them. It doesn't matter which one yet. It doesn't say that I saw you registered. It just says, hey, I noticed you were looking at some homes. And we say homes because buyers relate to homes, right? Homes are where the heart is. When we're talking to sellers, we say houses. We want to disconnect. But when we're talking about buyers, we use homes. And then I'm coming from a place of curiosity. I'm just curious. Are you looking to make a move in the next few months, or are you just browsing? Right? So I'm giving them an A or B answer. It's not a yes or no, it's an A or a B. It's, hey, are you looking to make a move in the next few months, or are you just browsing? 98% of the time, they're going to say just browsing. Hey, you know what? That's perfect. That is exactly what the site is for. What's prompted you to browse? That is actually a why question, but it doesn't feel as aggressive if I said, why are you looking? It says, what's prompted you to browse, right? Now it's like, well, my friends all live down there and they're golfing all winter and I'm up here stuck in the snow. Whatever it is, people once you get people talking, you will be amazed at the things that you can find out in a conversation. Now, there's you always kind of want to go three whys for every what. But if you don't realize this already, people are only going to purchase, and this is really anything, because of a pain or a pleasure. So if you go into this conversation like you did in 2020, taking orders, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, where do you want to be, single family home or condo? If you're having that, that is not a conversation. You are taking an order. You are not building a relationship. You are not building rapport. You are literally just taking somebody's order. Instead, you need to be thinking of how can I figure out why they are purchasing? Is it for a pain or a pleasure? And you do this by asking A or B questions. You don't always have to use A or B questions, but they really work, especially for people who are giving you one word answers. And you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, how am I going to get anything out of this person? They are not giving me anything. Using A or B questions are great. So, what are you thinking? Three or four bedrooms? And then when they tell you, oh, you know what? I really would like four bedrooms. Then instead of saying, great, how many bathrooms? You say, hey, you know what? Tell me a little bit about your current situation. When you can figure out that the reason that they want four bedrooms is because they live in a two-bedroom, two-bathroom condo right now, they've already got two kids, two dogs, a cat, and a baby on the way, and they work from home, you know that they are moving and they need to move from a pain. Okay, it is painful to be in a two-bedroom, two-bathroom with two kids, two dogs, a cat, and another baby on the way, and working from home. Can you imagine being in that situation? And now it opens up a whole other conversation. Oh, cool. So, what is it that you do? Okay, so you need four bedrooms because you're in two bedrooms. You've got another baby on the way. Is a yard important, maybe? Right? You start to create a conversation that you can build on. If they don't mention the dogs, but you hear a dog barking in the background, oh, is that a dog I hear? Oh, what kind of dog is it? Right? We're creating conversation. We're looking for things to connect with people about. And then why is that important to you? What would that mean or do for you to have that four bedrooms? Now, some of this is a little redundant based on the example that I gave, but you can see I have a dog in the background. That's not my current dog, but dogs are really important to me. So if I can find a way to connect with people and because they hear a dog in the background or they mention that they have a dog, I'm going to do that. It creates conversation and it's the conversation that's going to lead to conversion. So again, you're going to look for three whys for every what and figure out is it a pain or a pleasure. And a lot of times for me, it's more of a pleasure. I live in a secondary market where a lot of people are buying their second, third, fourth homes. They don't have to buy, but they're excited to buy because they want to golf all year round and whatever the case may be. But you don't know that if you don't ask the right questions. And remember that we have to listen to understand. not to respond. So if you find yourself having a conversation with people and you don't remember any of the answers to your questions, it's because you're not listening to understand, you're listening to respond, right? And that's not the goal of the conversation. Your question will be in the person's answer. But if you're not listening to their answer, you won't know what your next question is going to be. And to help them realize that you understand what they're saying and buy yourself some more time, you can always just repeat back to them what they said and then add your question onto it, and it will come to you. But you've got to be able to listen to understand, not to just respond. If you get stuck too, there's always the five W's you can go back to. Who are they? What are they looking for? Where do they want to be? When do they want to be there? And why? Right? But now I want to caution you when you ask the when and they say, you know what, we're probably about 2 to 5 years out because we do get that in my market, right? Maybe you get that where you are too. It may or may not be 2 to 5 years. That doesn't mean don't call them for a year, right? Because again, how many of us have made a call within a month to the person that said that they were waiting 2 to 5 years and then ended up selling them something in 6 months? Right? But then also, there's plenty of us that have not called for that year, and then we call in maybe 3 or 6 months and they've already purchased. And we're thinking, well, how did that happen? You said you weren't going to buy for 2 to 5 years. Well, you should have followed up a little sooner. Because people, I hate to say it, but buyers are liars. Most of the time, buyers are liars. And it's not even because they're meaning to lie, it's just that you didn't ask the right question. And so you didn't get a more detailed answer. Now, I already shared, this is funny. There we go. I already shared that 86% of home buyers do not think that their agent understands their problem. And I want you to think about this when you are talking to somebody, because if that's the case, even if they're working with another agent, they will likely end up working with you if you make them feel seen and heard. Because there's nothing worse than working with someone who you thought understood what you were looking for, and then you get out and you spend a couple days looking, and that wasn't what you were looking for at all, right? You want to make the best of everyone's time, and you do that by actually understanding their problem and what they're looking for. And also, of course, if you're asking better questions, you're going to get better results, right? So always be thinking about how can you go a little deeper in the conversation. And if a question that you want to ask feels a little bit intrusive, it's probably along the right tracks and you should ask it. Because there's so many of us that are staying so surface that we don't ever learn anything about our clients, our customers, and what's going on in their life, that we can't close the deal because we are not aware enough about their current situation. So we need to be asking better questions, and that is how we get better results. And then understanding the closing and how you're going to tie them down, for lack of better words, right? I said this in the beginning, if you're struggling to get people to set appointments with you with your internet leads, there's a couple reasons why. You may not have connected deep enough in the conversation, but also you might have just not known how. And that's okay, because that was me. I was there at one point for sure. And I want you to again think of this as closing is not a technique, it's an attitude. Okay. And it's built through confidence. So if you don't have confidence in the closing because you don't know what to say or how to say it, or because someone never taught you, that's okay. That's why we're here. But if you build it, they will close, right? If you set them up for the success, then you will be able to. So the tie down and the closing that we really like, this is my favorite one. This changed my entire business because I was really great at having conversations, but I had no idea how to set an appointment. I just was not ever taught that until I started using this platform. And you need to be the authority. Okay. So, yes, you want to have a conversation. Yes, you want to create rapport, all of these things. But if you are not being the authority in the conversation, if you do not believe that you are the best one that can help them with this transaction, you're going to lose them to someone else who does believe in themselves, right? So you need to be able to ask them for the appointment. And the way that we do that is once we've had a really great conversation and we feel ready, maybe it's been 10 minutes, 5 minutes, everybody gets there at their own pace, right? It's very simple. And you say, hey, you know what? The next step in the process, okay? I'm leading them down. I'm not asking them whatever. It's, hey, you know what? The next step in the process is super simple. Let's just set up a quick 15-minute meeting. This way we can share with you our strategy, and I'm going to bring a list of handpicked homes. What works better for you, Tuesday or Friday? Now you put in whatever days work for you, right? But this is how you show authority. Hey, you know what? This is just the next step in the process, right? It's super simple. We're just going to set up a quick 15-minute meeting. Now, having said that, if you're already thinking, oh, well, none of my buyers are in my market, no one's going to meet me for coffee for 15 minutes, like that doesn't work. Great. Nobody's in my market either because they're all moving here from somewhere else and everything is done via Zoom or FaceTime. Get in front of them. If you can get a face-to-face meeting, I should look up this data base point and I haven't yet, but if you can get a face-to-face meeting with someone, whether it's Zoom, in person, or FaceTime, your chances of actually working with that person are significantly higher because now you are not just a voice or a name at the end of an email. You are a human being. And it is much easier to connect eye to eye than it is just through a conversation through a voice, right? It personifies you, literally. They can see your avatar, they can see who you are. Now, if this works against you in some ways, that's fine too, because you don't want to work with that person anyway, right? And you might see them and think, oh, I don't want to work with that person, or their attitude might come across differently. Whatever the case may be the authority and ask for the appointment. And this is the easiest way. How? The next step in the process is super simple. Okay. Let's just set up a quick 15-minute meeting. This way we can share with you our strategy. I'm going to bring a list of handpicked homes. What works better for you, Tuesday or Friday? Now, you notice I also gave an A or B, right? I didn't ask, is Tuesday good for you? No, Tuesday is not good. No, I just said, what works better, Tuesday or Friday? Now, they may say, you know what? Actually, neither of those work for me. How about Wednesday? Then you can decide again. Okay, Wednesday's good for me. And then again, go back to your A and B. Would you prefer morning or afternoon? Okay, great. How about 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock? But if you don't already have um, making these calls a part of your day, if you don't time block this into your day, then you will not do it. So I would encourage you to choose an hour in the morning or the afternoon or in the evening, whenever you want to do this, make it a non-negotiable in your schedule. And then don't ever schedule anything in that time frame. That is how you get onto the real estate gain train and you get off of the real estate roller coaster, right? Everybody's on a roller coaster in real estate because they don't want to make the calls. And then they go through a phase where they make all the calls and they have great success and they go up on this peak. And then during their success and showing all the properties and doing all the things, they make all this money, but then they get to the top and they don't have any pipeline because they weren't making any calls. So now they're at the bottom again. And now we got to start and work our way back up. There's no reason to do that. If you just make it in your schedule a point to call for an hour every single day and connect with as many people as you can, even when you have a full book of business, this is how you build a pipeline, right? And now, if you get so busy that you can't handle all those people because you've made such great connections during those calls, then you start to grow your team and you hand out some of those things and you take referrals, right? And you start working smarter, not harder. There's so many different ways you can expand. But if you can't even ask for an appointment, then you're not going to have enough success for yourself, let alone bringing on other people, right? So ask for that appointment. Now, if for some reason you didn't connect with them as much as you'd hoped, to be able to set the appointment at this time, it's not the end of the world. You have another option. Hey, you know what? I totally get it. I just want to make sure that you have the right person with the right strategy for the right time. Does that sound fair? Gosh, I guess you're right. Yeah, that does make sense. Okay, great. So what works better for you? Tuesday or Friday, right? And then you go back and is it morning or afternoon? Right? And then once you have and you say, then I always like to do a couple of things to make sure that they show up for that appointment. I want to back them into a yes corner, right? And we do that by saying, okay, great. So do you run your day with a calendar? Most people do, right? If they don't, they're going to tell you no, and then you can figure out another way. But for the majority of people, they're going to say yes. Then the next thing you say is, hey, you know what? What is the email associated with that calendar? They registered with an email. Yes, we know that, but that may not be the one connected to their calendar because if they're like me, I use my junk email to register for things like this. That is not associated with my calendar, right? So I'm not confirming what their email is. I'm asking them, what is the email associated with your calendar? They give it to you. Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and send you this invite. It's coming through now, and I will do it right as I'm on the call with them. Can you just confirm that you received it? Yes. All right, great. Can I ask one more? Well, can you go ahead and accept it for me? Yes, that's two yeses. And then I'm just going to ask you one more favor. In the event that anything happens between now and Tuesday at 9 o'clock, can you just let me know? Yes, that is three yeses. There is no reason why that person will not show up for that appointment. Now, there is, of course, always something that could come up or could happen. But ultimately, they're probably going to show up for that appointment because you're not going to call and confirm it. You were just going to say, hey, see you at 9 o'clock tomorrow, right? You can send them a quick text or something, but it's not a reminder. It's not anything. It's just, I'll see you tomorrow at 9. We're not giving them an out. We're not giving them a way to back out of it or cancel. So this is something that has really expanded my business significantly. I hope it is super helpful and has also offered you some things to think about, maybe some things that you were already doing, maybe some things that you were doing that you shouldn't be doing, and just a different perspective on calling internet leads because they are human beings. And without conversation, there is no conversion. So you need the conversation to create the connection that leads to the conversion. If you have any questions, I'm here to help.
Hi, Kristine. This is Anita. Sorry, I'm not on camera. Um, I would like more information because it's not just internet leads. I think this is just for like having conversations in general as well. When we get stuck, people ask us what we do, how can we help them, but we don't know unless we know what they need. So how do we get more information about what you just shared?
Well, I think that in the question that you just asked, I think that was the perfect answer, actually. When somebody asks you, how can you help me? Then you respond just exactly how you did. Well, I need to know a little bit more about you so that I can share that with you, right? And then you can go into setting the appointment. Hey, what works? I'd love to just, the next step in the process is super simple. And we just go back to those main frameworks and keep it simple and keep reiterating the fact that, we can really connect better if we've got a set amount of time. Because if you take up too much time on the initial call with somebody or meeting with someone that it was just like by chance and you take up too much time on that initial time, it's hard to get an appointment later because I think every time you call or every time you reach out, it's going to be, an hour-long call. I
Hmm.
realize that's not your question, Anita, actually, now that I'm saying that, but um, just always getting them to that appointment, I think, is the key.
Hmm.
But so the database that I use and teach from is called Commissions Inc. And it is a lead database management system. So they generate leads, but they also offer a ton of training on how to actually convert the leads. They have free internet training online, live trainings like what I just shared with you guys. And then they also do 3-day in-person trainings that I've never seen anyone else in this industry do that are unbelievable about how to use the database, how to use automations that the database offers, and then they do a full day on this type of training, conversion training, and yeah, a full 8 hours of it. It's incredible.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And if anybody has any other questions, you can email me at getitdonechristine, getitdonechristine@gmail.com. I'm also on social media, that same handle. And email is probably the best if you have more questions about Commissions Inc. as well. Happy to share any of that information. Happy to connect you with the right person on their team if you have questions more specifically. Or if you're trying to find someone in your area that might be growing their team that you might want to join and just try it out first. There's lots of different options there. But I really enjoyed sharing this information with you guys today. I hope you got as much out of it as I did sharing it. And I hope that you all have a great week.